I sat alone in my auto shop after midnight, brake dust still under my nails, staring at the phone number I'd memorized 40 years ago. Wade had just texted me. His wife passed 3 months back. He was moving home to Jacksonville. And I realized I'd spent 4 decades loving a man who never knew. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me. My name is Russell, and I've been a mechanic in Jacksonville, Florida my whole working life. 58 years old now, hands scarred from every kind of metal and heat you can imagine, back that protests every morning until I move around a bit. I own a small independent shop on Atlantic Boulevard, just south of the Riverside neighborhood. It's nothing fancy. 4 bays, good equipment, a waiting area with coffee that's usually too strong and magazines that are usually too old. But it's mine. I bought it 22 years ago with money I saved doing side jobs and weekend work for 15 years before that. The sign out front just says Russell's Auto Service. Simple, honest. I never married. People around here know that. They don't ask about it much anymore. I think some folks assume I'm gay. Some assume I'm just set in my ways. Some probably don't think about it at all. I don't talk about my private life. I show up, I do the work. I go home to a house I keep neat in Springfield, a neighborhood with old oaks and decent porches. I have a dog named Biscuit. Wait, no, I had a dog years ago. Named her someplace else in my memory. I have a dog named Grover now. A beagle mix, stubborn and loyal. But the truth I never told anyone is that I've been in love with the same man since I was 18 years old. His name is Wade Mercer, and until 3 months ago, he was married to a woman named Adelaide for 36 years. Wade and I grew up 2 streets apart in the Murray Hill neighborhood. We went to the same high school, played on the same baseball team, spent summers working at the same marina down on the St. Johns River. We were inseparable. Best friends in that way teenage boys are when they're not trying to prove anything yet, when friendship still feels infinite and uncomplicated. We fished off the docks, drove his old Chevy truck too fast down Edgewood Avenue, shared cigarettes we stole from his older brother, talked about everything and nothing under the live oaks that seemed older than the city itself. I knew I was different by the time I was 16. I knew what I felt when I looked at Wade wasn't what the other guys felt. It wasn't just admiration or camaraderie. It was longing. It was the way my chest tightened when he laughed, the way I found excuses to sit close to him, the way I memorized the shape of his hands and the cadence of his voice. I didn't have the language for it then. This was Jacksonville in the early 80s. You didn't talk about being gay. You didn't even think it too loudly, so I buried it. I buried it so deep I almost convinced myself it wasn't real. We graduated high school in 1984. Wade went to Florida State for business school. I stayed in Jacksonville and started working at a transmission shop on Heartfelt Avenue, learning the trade, trying to build a life. We wrote letters that first year, actual letters, the kind you mail. His handwriting was terrible, looping and careless, but I kept every one. He told me about fraternity parties and football games and a girl named Adelaide he'd met in an economics class. He said she was smart, that she challenged him, that he liked that. I wrote back and told him I was glad. I lied. They got married a year after he graduated. I was invited to the wedding. It was at a church in Ortega, beautiful and warm, Spanish moss hanging from the trees outside. I stood in the back and watched him say his vows, watched him kiss her, watched everyone clap and cheer. I shook his hand afterward and congratulated them both. Adelaide was kind to me. She always has been. That made it worse somehow. Wade took a job with a logistics company and they moved to Atlanta. I stayed in Jacksonville. We talked less after that. Calls on birthdays, maybe Christmas. A few years would go by and he'd be back in town visiting his parents, and we'd get a beer somewhere on San Marco Boulevard and catch up. He'd tell me about his kids, 2 daughters, about his career, about home repairs and vacations, and all the normal things people build lives around. I'd tell him about the shop, about jobs I'd worked on, about not much else. There wasn't much else. I dated a few women over the years. It felt like something I was supposed to do. None of them lasted. I told myself I just hadn't met the right person. I told myself I was married to the work. I told myself a lot of things. The truth was simpler. I couldn't love someone else when my heart had already decided. Wade's parents passed about 10 years ago, within a year of each other. He came back for both funerals. We saw each other briefly, exchanged the kind of stilted condolences you give when grief makes everything formal. I wanted to hug him longer. I didn't. Then last winter I got a message on Facebook. Wade had found me. He said Adelaide had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, that the prognosis wasn't good, that they were doing everything they could, but it was aggressive. He didn't ask for anything. I think he just needed to tell someone from the old days. I wrote back. I told him I was sorry. I told him I was thinking of them. I didn't tell him that my hands shook typing it, that I sat at my kitchen table afterward and felt the weight of 40 years all at once. She died in February. I sent flowers to the funeral home in Atlanta. I signed the card with my full name, Russell Anthony Calhoun, like he might not remember who I was otherwise. 3 months passed. I didn't hear anything. I figured that was that. You go through something like losing a spouse, you're not thinking about some old high school buddy you barely kept in touch with. I didn't expect anything different. Then last week my phone buzzed while I was under a Honda Accord replacing a rusted exhaust manifold. I ignored it. When I came out for lunch, I saw the message. It was from Wade. Hey, Russell. Long time. I'm moving back to Jacksonville next month. Sold the house in Atlanta. Needed a change. Would be good to see you if you're around. Here's my number, if you still want to use a phone like a human being. I stared at that message for 20 minutes. Grover came over and nudged my leg, confused why I wasn't moving. My sandwich sat untouched. Wade was coming back. I didn't know what to feel. Relief, maybe. Terror, definitely. Something I didn't have a name for. Something that felt like hope and dread mixed together in equal measure. I wrote back that night. Kept it simple. Good to hear from you. Sorry again about Adelaide. Let me know when you're in town. Coffee's on me, he replied an hour later. Sounds good. I'll be there June 9th, staying with my cousin in Avondale until I find a place. Let's meet up that weekend. June 9th was 12 days away. I started counting them like a teenager. I told myself this was ridiculous. I was 58 years old. Wade was a widower, grieving, rebuilding his life. He wanted to reconnect with an old friend. That was it. That was all it could be. The idea that he might feel anything else, that he might have ever felt anything else, was fantasy. Dangerous fantasy. But I couldn't stop the part of me that wondered, the part that remembered how he used to look at me sometimes, just a beat too long. The part that remembered the time we were 21 and both back in town for the summer, drunk on cheap beer at the beach, and he fell asleep with his head on my shoulder. The part that remembered him saying once, late at night on his back porch, that he felt like he could tell me anything. I told myself I was imagining things, rewriting history to fit a narrative I wanted. Maybe I was. June 9th came. Wade texted me that morning. He was in town, still unpacking, but free Saturday afternoon if I wanted to meet. I suggested a coffee shop on King Street in Riverside, a place called Brew 5 Points. Quiet, casual. He agreed. I got there early, sat outside at one of the small metal tables under the awning, ordered a black coffee I didn't drink. The weather was warm, humid in that heavy Florida way, the kind that makes your shirt stick to your back. I watched people walk by. Families. Couples. A guy on a bike with a dog in the front basket. Then I saw him. Wade looked older, of course. We both did. His hair was mostly gray now, cut short. He'd put on a little weight, but he carried it well. He wore jeans and a faded blue polo, sunglasses pushed up on his head. He walked with the same easy gait I remembered, unhurried, like he had all the time in the world. When he saw me, he smiled. That smile. I stood up. We shook hands. It turned into one of those awkward half-hugs men do. He smelled like cologne I didn't recognize and laundry detergent. "Russell," he said. "Man, it's good to see you." "You too," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. We sat down. He ordered an iced coffee. We made small talk for a while. He told me about the move, about packing up a house he'd lived in for 30 years, about his daughters helping him sort through everything. One of them lived in Charlotte now, the other in Raleigh. He said it felt strange being back in Jacksonville, like visiting a place you used to dream about and finding it smaller than you remembered. I told him about the shop, about a few funny customer stories, about Grover. He laughed at the name, said it suited me somehow. There was a pause. Not uncomfortable exactly, but waited. "I'm sorry about Adelaide," I said. "I know I said it before, but I mean it." He nodded, looked down at his coffee. "Thank you. It's been hard, harder than I expected. We knew it was coming, but that doesn't make it easier." "No," I said. "I imagine it doesn't." He looked up at me then. Something in his expression shifted, softer, more open. "You know what's strange?" he said. "After she died, when I was going through everything, trying to figure out what came next, I kept thinking about the people who really knew me. Not the version of me I became, but the version I was before all the jobs and the mortgage and the responsibilities. And I kept coming back to you." My throat tightened. "We had something simple, didn't we?" he said. "Back then." "We did," I said. "I missed that," he said. "I missed you." I didn't trust myself to respond. I just nodded. We sat there for another hour. Talked about old times, about people we used to know, about the city and how it had changed. It felt easy, familiar, like no time had passed at all. When we finally stood to leave, he asked if I wanted to get dinner sometime that week. I said yes. We've been seeing each other regularly since then. Dinners, lunches, a few trips to the beach. Nothing romantic. Nothing I could point to and say, "There, that means something." Just two old friends rebuilding a connection. Except it doesn't feel like just that. Not to me. There are moments, small ones. The way he leans in when I talk. The way he laughs at things that aren't that funny. The way he texted me at midnight last Thursday just to say he'd been thinking about a trip we took to St. Augustine when we were 19. And there's the way he looks at me sometimes, like he's trying to figure something out. Last night, we were sitting on the dock behind his cousin's house in Avondale, feet hanging over the water, watching the sunset over the St. Johns River. The sky was streaked orange and pink, the air finally starting to cool. We'd had a couple of beers. We weren't talking, just sitting. Then Wade said, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," I said. "Did you ever think about what your life would have been like if you'd made different choices?" I looked at him. His face was serious, thoughtful. "All the time," I said. "Me too," he said. He didn't say anything else. Neither did I. But I knew, sitting there in the quiet, that something was shifting, and I didn't know if I was ready for it. A week after that night on the dock, Wade called me on a Tuesday morning. I was at the shop, elbows deep in an oil change on a Subaru Outback. I almost didn't answer, but something made me wipe my hands and pick up. "Hey," he said. "You busy?" "Not too bad." "What's up?" "I'm looking at a house this afternoon. Wondering if you'd come with me. Get a second opinion." I hesitated. It felt significant somehow, him asking me that. Like I was being invited into a part of his life that mattered. "Yeah," I said. "I can do that." "Where is it?" "San Marco. Little bungalow on Hendricks Avenue. Nothing fancy, but it's got good bones. Realtor says it needs some work. I'll meet you there." "Text me the address," he did. I finished up the Subaru, told my assistant to handle the rest of the day, and drove over. The house was small, pale yellow with white trim, a front porch with columns that needed repainting. The yard was overgrown, but you could see the potential. Oak trees shading the front, a driveway that could fit 2 cars if you parked carefully. It was the kind of place someone could make a home. Wade was already there, standing on the porch with a woman in a blazer holding a clipboard. He waved me over. "Russell, this is Shanice. She's the listing agent. Shanice, this is my friend Russell. He knows more about houses than I do." I shook her hand. "I know about what breaks in them anyway," she laughed. "That's useful." We walked through. The inside was dated, but clean. Hardwood floors that needed refinishing, a kitchen with laminate counters from the 90s, bathrooms with pink tile, but the layout was good. The windows let in plenty of light, and the structure felt solid. I checked the outlets, looked under the sinks, went down into the crawl space to inspect the foundation and the plumbing. When I came back up, Wade was standing in the living room, hands in his pockets, looking around. "What do you think?" he asked. "It's solid," I said. "Needs cosmetic work. The water heater's old. Probably replace that soon. But no major red flags. Roof looks decent. Foundation's dry," he nodded. "Good." Shanice excused herself to make a phone call outside. Wade and I stood there in the empty living room. "You really thinking about this one?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "I think I am." "It suits you." He looked at me. "You think?" "Yeah, quiet street. Good neighborhood. Close to the river. You could fix it up, make it yours." "I'd need help with that," he said. "I'm not handy." "I am," I said. He smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." We walked out to the porch. Shanice came back and asked if he wanted to put in an offer. Wade said he'd think about it overnight. On the drive back, he followed me to the shop. I didn't ask why. When we got there, he parked next to me and got out. "You got a few minutes?" he asked. "Sure." We went inside. The shop was empty. My assistant had already locked up the front. I made coffee in the back office. The ancient percolator I refused to replace because it still worked. Wade sat in the chair across from my desk, looking around at the cluttered space. Invoices, parts catalogs, a calendar from a tire distributor. "You've built a good thing here," he said. "It pays the bills." "It's more than that. You should be proud." I handed him a mug. Sat down across from him. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Go ahead. Why didn't you ever leave Jacksonville?" I didn't expect that. I took a sip of coffee, buying time. "I don't know," I said. "I guess I never had a reason to." "You could have gone anywhere. Done anything. So could you. But you came back." He nodded slowly. "I came back because I didn't want to be anywhere else anymore." There was something in his voice. Something unsteady. "Wade," I said carefully. "What's going on?" He set his mug down, leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I've been thinking a lot since Adelaide died. About my life. About what I want the rest of it to look like." He paused. "I don't want to pretend anymore." My heart started pounding. "Pretend what?" I asked. He looked at me. Really looked at me. That I don't know who I am. The room felt very small. "I loved Adelaide," he said. "I need you to know that. She was my partner, my best friend, the mother of my children. I don't regret the life we built." "Okay," I said quietly. "But I also spent 36 years not being completely honest. Not with her, not with myself." His voice cracked slightly. "And I can't do that anymore. I didn't move." Didn't breathe. I'm gay. Russell. The words hung in the air. I felt everything at once. Shock, relief, fear, hope. 40 years of buried feelings surging up all at once. "I've known for a long time," he continued. "Maybe always. But I didn't know what to do with it. I thought if I just ignored it, built the right life, it would go away. And for a while I convinced myself it did." He looked down at his hands. "But it didn't. It never did." "Did Adelaide know?" I asked. "Near the end, yeah. We talked about it. She'd suspected for years, I think. She was kind about it. She said she just wanted me to be happy, whatever that looked like. He wiped at his eyes. She told me not to waste the time I had left hiding. I didn't know what to say. I'm telling you this because you're the only person I trust with it right now, he said. And because I need you to understand why I came back here. It wasn't just about the city. It was about you. My chest felt tight. Wade, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I know this is a lot. I know I don't have any right to drop this on you after 40 years, but I couldn't keep pretending we were just old friends catching up, because that's not what this is. Not for me, I stared at him. This man I'd loved since I was a kid. This man I'd mourned losing 1,000 times without ever having him. What is it then? I asked. He met my eyes. I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out. If you're willing, I should have been careful. I should have thought it through. Considered all the ways this could go wrong. Protected myself, but I'd spent 40 years being careful. I'm willing, I said. His expression shifted. Relief. Gratitude. Something that looked like hope. Yeah, he exhaled, a shaky breath that sounded like he'd been holding it for decades. We didn't touch. Didn't move toward each other. It didn't feel like the right moment for that. This wasn't a movie. This was two men in their 50s, sitting in a cluttered office, finally saying things that should have been said half a lifetime ago. But it felt like a beginning. Wade bought the house on Hendricks Avenue. The offer was accepted a week later. I started helping him fix it up. We worked on it most weekends, painting walls, refinishing the floors, replacing light fixtures. We didn't talk much while we worked. Just moved around each other with the easy rhythm of people who'd known each other a long time. His daughters came to visit a few times. They were polite to me, warm even. I don't know what Wade told them about me. I didn't ask. We still hadn't defined what we were doing. We had dinner together a few times a week. We texted throughout the day, little things, pictures of Grover, complaints about traffic, memories that surfaced. It felt domestic in a way I'd never experienced. One Saturday in late July, we were working in the backyard, building a small deck off the back door. It was brutally hot. The kind of heat that makes you stop every 10 minutes just to breathe. We'd taken our shirts off, something I was self-conscious about, but Wade didn't seem to care. We were sitting on the steps drinking water when Wade said, "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" "Of course. I used to dream about you, back when we were kids. And I'd wake up terrified because I didn't understand why." I looked at him. "I dreamed about you too," I said. "Yeah?" "Yeah," he reached over. Took my hand. It was the first time we'd touched like that. His palm was rough, calloused from the work we'd been doing. His grip was firm. I didn't pull away. We sat there, hands joined, not saying anything. After a while, he said, "I wasted a lot of time. So did I. I don't want to waste any more. Me neither." He turned toward me. His face was inches from mine. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. I nodded. He leaned in, pressed his lips to mine, gentle, tentative. It was the first kiss of my life that felt like it meant something. When we pulled back, he was smiling. "Took us long enough," he said. I laughed. A real laugh, the kind that comes from somewhere deep. "Yeah," I said. It did. We spent the rest of the day working. But something had shifted. We moved closer now, brushed against each other more, smiled for no reason. When the sun started to set, we sat on the unfinished deck, legs stretched out, shoulders touching. "I don't know how to do this," Wade said quietly. "I've never been with a man. I don't know what I'm doing." "Neither do I said. "Not really. So we'll figure it out together." "Yeah." He rested his head on my shoulder. I wrapped my arm around him, and for the first time in 40 years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. By August, Wade had mostly moved into the house. The work wasn't finished, probably wouldn't be for months, but it was livable. He'd brought furniture from Atlanta, pieces that had belonged to him and Adelaide. I asked once if it felt strange, using those things in a new context. He said no. He said they were part of his history and he wasn't trying to erase that. I respected that. We still hadn't told anyone we were together. I don't think either of us knew how. Wade's daughters knew he was spending a lot of time with me, but I don't think they understood the nature of it. My assistant at the shop, a guy named Jerome, asked once if I was seeing someone. I said maybe. He grinned and didn't push. It felt fragile, what we were building, like something we needed to protect until it was strong enough to withstand scrutiny. But it also felt real. Wade started staying over at my place a few nights a week. We'd cook dinner together, sit on the back porch with Grover at our feet, talk about everything and nothing. He told me about his marriage, about the good parts and the hard parts, about the quiet compromises people make when they're building a life. I told him about the years I'd spent alone, about the loneliness I'd gotten so used to I didn't recognize it anymore. We were learning each other. Not as the boys we'd been, but as the men we'd become. One night in early September, we were lying in bed, the window open, the sound of cicadas loud in the dark. Wade was on his back staring at the ceiling. "What are you thinking about?" I asked. "My daughters," he said. "I need to tell them." "About us?" "Yeah," I felt a flicker of anxiety. "You don't have to. Not if you're not ready. I am ready. They deserve to know. And I don't want to hide you." That meant more to me than I could say. "When?" I asked. "Soon. Maybe this weekend. They're both coming down to see the house." I nodded. "Okay." He turned toward me. "Will you be there?" "When I tell them?" "If you want me to be." "I do." Saturday came. Wade's daughters arrived in the afternoon. I met them at the house. Emily, the older one, was 34, a lawyer in Charlotte, sharp and measured. Grace was 31, a teacher in Raleigh, warmer, quicker to smile. They were polite to me, asked about the work we'd been doing, complimented the deck. We had dinner together. Wade grilled chicken in the backyard. I made a salad. Grace brought a peach cobbler she'd baked that morning. It felt almost normal. After we ate, Wade asked if we could all sit down in the living room. His tone shifted. The daughters noticed. They exchanged a glance. We sat. Wade was next to me on the couch. Emily and Grace were across from us in chairs Wade had reupholstered. "I need to talk to you both about something," Wade said. His voice was steady, but I could feel the tension in his body. "Okay," Emily said carefully. Wade took a breath. "I've been spending a lot of time with Russell. You know that. And I want you to understand that he's not just an old friend." Grace's expression shifted. Understanding dawning. "We're together," Wade said, romantically. "I'm gay. I have been my whole life. I just didn't know how to live that truth until now." The room was silent. Emily's face was unreadable. Grace looked stunned. "I loved your mother," Wade continued. "I need you to know that. Our marriage was real. You two are the best thing that ever happened to me. But I also wasn't fully honest with her or with myself. And I can't do that anymore." "Did Mom know?" Emily asked. Her voice was tight. "Yes. We talked about it before she died. She encouraged me to be honest." Grace's eyes were wet. "How long have you known?" "A long time," Wade said quietly, "and you never told us. I didn't know how." "I'm sorry." Emily stood up, walked to the window, stood there with her arms crossed. Grace looked at me. "And you're—" "I've known your dad since we were kids," I said. "I care about him. I'm not trying to replace your mother or complicate your family. I just want to be part of his life if he'll let me." Grace nodded slowly, wiped her eyes. Emily turned around. "I need some air." She walked out. Wade started to stand, but Grace shook her head. "Let her process," Grace said. "She'll come around." Wade sat back down, looked at his daughter. "Are you okay?" he asked. Grace gave a shaky laugh. "I don't know. This is a lot, I know, but I love you, and I want you to be happy, if this makes you happy." She looked at me, then back at Wade. "Then I'm glad you told us." Wade's eyes filled. "Thank you." Grace stood, came over and hugged him. He held her tight. She pulled back, looked at me. "Take care of him, okay?" "I will," I said. She went outside to find her sister. Wade and I sat there in the quiet. "That was hard," he said. "Yeah, but it was right." "Yeah." He leaned into me. I put my arm around him. Emily came back in about 20 minutes later. Grace was with her. Emily's face was red but composed. "I'm not going to pretend this isn't a lot to take in," she said, "because it is. But you're my dad, and I love you. So we'll figure it out." Wade stood, hugged her. "Thank you," he said. The rest of the evening was quieter. We didn't talk about it much, but the tension eased. By the time the daughters left, there were even a few jokes, a little laughter. After they drove away, Wade and I stood on the front porch. "You did good," I said. "We did good," he said. He kissed me, right there on the porch where anyone could see. It felt like freedom. By October, we'd settled into something that felt like a life. Wade's house was mostly finished. I'd helped him plant a small garden in the backyard, tomatoes and herbs. We had routines now. Friday nights at a little Italian place on Atlantic Boulevard. Saturday mornings at the farmer's market in Riverside. Sundays, we'd drive out to the beach, walk along the shore with Grover. People started to notice. I'd get looks sometimes at the market, two men our age holding hands. Most people didn't care. A few stared. One guy muttered something under his breath once. Wade squeezed my hand tighter and kept walking. Jerome, my assistant, asked me outright one afternoon, "So you and Wade, that's a thing?" "Yeah," I said. "That's a thing. Good for you, man. You seem happy." I was happy in a way I didn't know I could be. One evening in November, Wade and I were sitting on his back deck. The air was finally cool, the humidity gone. We were drinking beer, watching the sky turn purple. "I've been thinking," Wade said. About how much time we lost." I looked at him, and I was angry about it for a while, he said. Angry at myself, at the world, at all the things that made it so hard to be who I was. But then I realized something. What? We didn't lose the time. We just took a long road to get here. And maybe we needed that road. Maybe we wouldn't appreciate this if we hadn't. I thought about that. "Maybe," I said. "I don't regret my life, Russell. I don't regret Adelaide or my daughters or the years I spent in Atlanta. But I also don't regret this. And I don't want to spend whatever time we have left wishing things had been different." "Me neither." He reached over, took my hand. "I love you," he said. I don't know if I ever said that, but I do. I think I always have. My throat tightened. "I love you too," I said. We sat there, hands joined, watching the stars come out. A few weeks later, Wade asked me to move in with him. I said yes. It took me a month to pack up my house in Springfield. I'd lived there for 18 years. It was strange, boxing up a life I'd built alone, knowing I wouldn't be alone anymore. I moved in the week before Christmas. Wade had cleared space in the closet, rearranged the furniture to make room for mine. Grover settled in immediately, claiming a spot on the couch. That first night, we cooked dinner together. Nothing fancy. Spaghetti and salad. We ate at the table Wade had refinished, the one that used to be in his dining room in Atlanta. After dinner, we sat on the couch. Wade put on a record, something jazzy and slow. We didn't talk. Just sat close, his head on my shoulder, my arm around him. "This feels right," he said quietly. "Yeah," I said. "It does." On Christmas Eve, we drove out to St. Augustine, walked through the old city, looked at the lights, had dinner at a little seafood place near the water. On the drive back, Wade fell asleep in the passenger seat, his hand resting on my leg. I looked over at him. This man I'd loved for 40 years. This man who'd finally come home. And I thought about all the years I'd spent believing love was something that happened to other people. All the years I'd convinced myself I was fine alone. I wasn't fine. I was surviving, but now I was living. We got home late. Wade woke up as I pulled into the driveway. "We're home," I said. He smiled. "Yeah, we are." We went inside. Grover greeted us at the door, tail wagging. We let him out into the backyard, stood on the deck while he ran around in the dark. Wade put his arm around me. "Merry Christmas," he said. "Merry Christmas." We stood there for a long time, just holding each other, and I realized this was all I'd ever wanted. Not grand gestures or dramatic declarations, just this. Just him, just us. Just the quiet, steady comfort of being known. I'm 59 now. Wade is 60. We've been together a little over a year. It's not a long time in the grand scheme, but it's enough to know this is real. We still work on the house. There's always something to fix. Wade jokes that I'll never run out of projects. He's probably right. His daughters visit regularly. Emily's warmed up considerably. Grace brought her boyfriend to meet us last month. It felt like acceptance. I still run the shop. Wade's talking about volunteering at a literacy nonprofit, something to keep him busy. We talk about the future sometimes. Trips we want to take. Places we want to see. A life we're building together one day at a time. People ask me sometimes if I regret waiting so long. If I'm angry about the years I spent alone, I'm not. I'm grateful. Grateful that we found our way back to each other. Grateful that we get to have this, whatever time we have left. Grateful that love, real love, doesn't have a timeline. It just has a truth. And the truth is, I loved Wade Mercer when I was 18. I loved him when I was 30. I loved him when I was 50, and I'll love him for whatever comes next. Last week, we were sitting on the dock at Memorial Park, watching the sun set over the St. Johns River, the same river we used to fish in as kids. Wade looked at me. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think we're right on time." I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "I think we are." He leaned over and kissed me. Right there in the open, right there where anyone could see, and I kissed him back. Because after 40 years of hiding, of waiting, of wondering, I finally had nothing left to hide. I had him. And that was everything.